Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
You're listening to the Memorial Day special on The Savage Nation, where we salute the troops 24/7. God bless the American military. Can we go back to 2007 and expose Obama's Muslim sympathies and background? Can we go back to 2007 and expose his relationships with known terrorists like Bill Ayers? Can we go back to 2007 and demand that we have truth in advertising? Can we go back to 2007 and have that moron John McCain not say he's a nice man with a nice family, not a Muslim? It was John McCain who threw the election. Never forget what McCain did. He was way ahead in the polls, that old dolt. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. In one of those town hall meetings, remember those days of freedom in America when there were town hall meetings before this dictatorship metastasized into this disease that we're now living with? Remember the town hall meetings when people went there and demanded of their politicians more than the usual rubbish? A lady stood up and she said to McCain, why, he's a Muslim. McCain shut her up and said, no, he's not a Muslim. He's a nice Christian man with a nice family. Well, it doesn't matter to me whether he is a moon man. All I know is what he's doing to the country. He's not an appeaser of Iran. He's an enabler of Iran. He's worse than Chamberlain. As I said to you earlier, Chamberlain acted out of love for Britain. He was not thinking of his own narcissistic place in history. He was a Brit, and he had a tired nation. It was disarmed, exhausted, and vulnerable. Now, Obama has exhausted us with his lies and his assaults. He has largely disarmed the military. Not totally, but largely disarmed the military. Go back to what he did to NASA. He eliminated NASA. We're now passengers in the backseat of a Russian rocket. He has largely disarmed us. He's exhausted us with his footwork and his constant thrusts against our borders, language, and culture. He's rendered us vulnerable. And so Obama is not acting out of a love for America in his deal with Iran. No, my friends, not at all. Now, you could say, who cares about it? It's not going to affect us. Even if Iran gets a bomb, so what? I've heard the argument, well, Israel has one. Russia has them. Pakistan has them. Why shouldn't Iran have the bomb? Well, I've never heard Pakistan, a Muslim country, threaten to annihilate another nation. Have you ever heard Pakistan say we're going to wipe a nation off the earth? No. Many nations have nukes, but they have responsible leadership. Iran is a terror state run by psychotic throwback religionists. Psychotic throwback religionists. Who does business with them and expects them to follow the letter of an agreement? They won't. Their religion tells them they don't have to. Their religion tells them you can lie, you can cheat, you can steal and get anything you want from a non-Muslim. Check it out. The best defense in certain statements is the truth. See if I'm wrong. See if I'm wrong. Don't tell me what you learned at Harvard. Don't tell me what you learned from your liberal professors at San Diego State University. Just check it out for yourself and you'll see who's right and who's wrong. Now, what are we actually talking about? Talking about the sellout of the deal with Iran. The liar in the White House is trumpeting it as a great victory at the same time that Iran is saying, are you kidding? It's no victory for you. You gave us everything we wanted and you got nothing. Obama, desperate to appear like a real leader, called it a deal. There is no deal. It's full of slippery, Clinton-esque lies. If the deal does this, it will do that. If we get to a final deal, it will do that. If the framework is followed, it will do that. Who would agree that a terrorist Islamic nation would ever follow a deal? You understand what I'm saying? Before all of this, there was an America. And in this America, there was music. And in this America, there was civilization. And let me tell you something. This civilization has not gone away, and the civilization will never go away. No matter how many third world haters are brought in by this monster, America will survive. You see, the white man is a quiet man and a peaceful man. And right now, the white man is very, very quiet and very, very peaceful. And like many dictators before him, Barack Obama thinks the white man will remain quiet and subdued forever. Hitler made that mistake. Hitler boasted that his supermen, his Hitler Youth, would easily wipe the floor with the G.I. Joes that were being sent over, with inferior equipment, by the way, tanks that blew up on impact. But you see, it was every man who defeated Superman. It was the white man again who defeated Superman in World War II. And let me tell you something else. You push the white man only so far, you're going to have a reaction like you've never seen. Now, right now, there's no reaction. Right now, the jerks are walking around like it's yesterday. Like suddenly it's life with father. We read today that the corrupt criminal Obama administration is letting the Department of Criminal Security bringing in, with free transportation, children of immigrants from 3 Central American countries, free transportation, and a special refugee parole program, criminals, with a special resettlement assistance and permanent residency program. Now, why would he be doing that? Why would these children be brought in? Do we need them for any reason? They're going to get a free education, food stamps, medical care, living expenses, even though their parents came here illegally. Why would the State Department do this to us? Well, it's the same State Department and executive branch that just sold America down the river to Iran. A deal that could only be done not by the equivalent of, let us say, Chamberlain. You see, Chamberlain, many of you don't even remember who he is. That's okay. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain wanted peace. And he wanted peace at all costs with Hitler. You see, Hitler was on the rise. And in 1938, the English wanted to avoid war at all costs. They had lost so many of their boys in World War I. They couldn't take it anymore. They didn't want to fight. Hitler wanted to fight real badly, just like Iran is looking for a fight. And so Chamberlain acted out of a belief that he was going to avoid a greater evil. He was not thinking of his place in history. He was not a narcissist lunatic who hated his country. Chamberlain was thinking of the Britain that he loved and the British men that he loved. A Britain that was disarmed, exhausted, and vulnerable. Now we have a president here acting out not of a love for America in his deal with Iran or flooding America with illegal aliens. He actually thinks he's replicating Nixon's historic opening of China. That would be one positive way to look at it. Some would say he's actually enabling Iran in order to diminish the Western powers. But let's take the positive look. Let's just say that this man in the White House thinks that he's a Nixon opening up the doors with Iran, and that he will secure his place in history by permitting Iran to develop nuclear weapons. Here is a man, Obama, dealing from a position of strength, which he refused to use. You see, the sanctions that were put on that criminal regime have actually hurt that criminal regime in Iran. And the falling oil prices added to Iran's vulnerability. They were weak. And instead of using the sanctions to pursue his original promise that Iran would not get the bomb, which this liar in the White House said many times, he has changed the game entirely. See, Iran's not going to get the nuclear weapons immediately, but it will be permitted to enrich uranium well beyond the 5% needed for generating nuclear energy. And they will be left with a capacity to create a bomb rather rapidly. I'll do the Iran deal for dummies on the Savage Nation. It'll take about 60 seconds, and I'll give you the two sides. The first side is that of the idiotic liberal who went to Harvard or Berkeley, who thinks that it's a wonderful deal because we're going to avoid war with the terror state of Iran. They say the basis of the framework agreement is that Iran will only be permitted to enrich uranium at the Natanz plant, which is about 150 miles south of Tehran, while the subterranean Fordo nuclear facility will remain open only as a research and nuclear physics laboratory. That's the liberal view. And then they're going to say Iran's heavy water reactor at Iraq will be modified under international supervision. Which degenerate from the UN is going to supervise it, by the way? Huh? Western officials said that the two quisling sides had agreed that the comprehensive settlement would require Iran to dilute or ship abroad most of its stocks of enriched uranium, which is a lie, by the way, because Iran denied that already, and also suspend 2/3 of the 19,000 centrifuges it operates for enrichment. Allegedly, the deal will require them to be monitored for 10 years. And in exchange, Obama gave away the store. All sanctions related to the nuclear program, which severely hampered the Iranian terror state, will be lifted. And while the sanctions will be lifted by Obama on Iran, the sanctions will be lifted on Iran, thereby making the terror state even stronger. We're told by liberals with their heads in the clouds that the framework for those sanctions will remain in place just in case the terror state of Iran reneges in any part of the final accord. Now let me give you the real side of the story. I'm giving you the Iran deal for dummies on the Savage Nation. First of all, the Iranians will not follow any agreement. They're terrorists. That's number one. They've killed many of our men in Iraq and Afghanistan, in case you don't know it. That's number two. Many of you give money to the Wounded Warriors program. You can thank Obama's friends in Iran for that. They will say one thing, they'll do another, and they don't care what you say about them. This agreement will only enable them to proceed faster towards bomb building. You see, they already have 20% enriched uranium. But peaceful nuclear power facilities use fuel that is only 5% or below enriched uranium. Did you learn that yet from the New York Times? 5% or below is all the enriched uranium that you need for a nuclear power plant. And the Iranian terrorists already have a 20% enriched uranium supply. Now, there's only one reason to have 20% enriched uranium. You know what that is? That's the most difficult stage to arrive at. Going from 0 to 20% takes many years. But going from 20% to 95% plus is much easier and won't take very long. 20% enriched uranium is the first step to 95% enriched uranium, which is weapons grade. Now you understand the Iran nuclear deal for dummies on the Savage Nation. I'll be right back.
Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I, Michael Savage, trust to buy my gold and silver from. SwissAmerica.com. And this weak belly fish of a nation ever stand up and be a vertebrate again? I don't know. Now, fish is a vertebrate, but a belly fish is not my idea of a vertebrate. We've become like a nation without a backbone, an invertebrate nation. And so only by becoming vertebrates and standing on our hind legs can a nation survive. And that's going to require a leader who has a backbone, a leader who sees the danger, a leader who says, that's it, no more, we're closing the borders, we're deporting all those brought in since 2008. It's over. The party is over. And moreover, we're going to hold war crimes trials against those who did this to us. See, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't you love to wake up to that? Someone who says that we're going to save America. Someone who says that our children will not be enslaved in the year 2050 because I'm putting a stop to it. Somebody who says enough is enough. We've been hollowed out and destroyed from the enemy within. The serpents who took over this country are going to pay the price for having done this to us. We're going to root them out of every institution in this country. We're going to root them out of the government. We're going to root them out of the media. We're going to root them out of the academic circles. We will get the enemies within, and we'll save the nation. You know why I say this? Because a nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable because he's known and carries his flags openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely. His sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face in their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear. Cicero wrote that in Rome in 42 BC. Now let's go back to the leader of the free world in clip number